Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you, whatever time and wherever in the world you are listening. We are pleased you have found us. You are now listening to Inside the Bunghole, a podcast taking you on a journey through wine. Together, we will learn more about this wonderful elixir of life. So raise your glass to welcome your hosts and partners in wine, Pam and James. You are now inside the bunghole.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, from wherever you're listening.
I know where we are.
I know where we are. Welcome to Inside the Bunghole. We're inside the bunghole. That's where we are.
Yep.
Today, of course, there's James. We have Armand here. Hello. And we're talking to Matt from MCV, which I think conveniently are your initials. Is that correct?
That's right. Matthew Christopher Villard.
And we are tasting some of his beautiful wines, which he specializes in Petite Sirahs, correct? Mm-hmm. And we're in Paso Robles on a field trip, having fun.
Yes.
So, and this, tell me what you poured for us, this one?
So this is Petite Sirah, 2020, I believe, from what I can see from the label over there. I should have looked at the vintages before we started, but I just kind of grabbed because it's been as you've seen, it's a hustle. I mean, we got fruit coming in today. We're trying to get our restaurant a topping in, all the fun things for harvest. And so what this is I call it my discovery Petite Sirah. And so what it is, a lot of times people make Petite Sirah in a very one-dimensional way. And it's like the sledgehammer approach to winemaking. It's, super tannic, super dark, in your face, overwhelming wine. And that is not what Petite Sirah should be. And so this helps people discover how good Petite Sirah can be. And then it helps them discover MCV after that. And so that's why I call it my discovery Petite Sirah. And so it introduces people and helps them discover the beauty of Petite Sirah.
It is very dark. It's beautiful. It's very fruit forward. I think on the certainly on the palate it is.
Mm-hmm. For me, I get a lot of plum, but some blueberries.
Yeah,
Is Paso a good place for Petite Sirah?
Yeah, Paso is fantastic for Petite Sirah. Petite Sirah needs a little bit of heat to really ripen and get fully flavored. And so it's not one of the ones where you can grow in, three or four different zones out of the five. It really needs to be in high 3 to low 5. So, I mean, it'll do fine in 5 too, but that's
Okay,
Central Valley. That's a Central Valley going to
That's our nerd alert. Okay, 3 to 5. What are you talking about? Are there zones?
So there's 5 main zones for grape ripening.
Okay.
1 through 5. 1 being the coldest, 5 being the hottest. Paso is zone 4. It depends on where you are actually, because we are such a diverse and large region that we range all the way from. We might even have some high 2, but low 3s all the way to fully 5 if you're way over on the east side. And what that does is the amount of degree days that you have for the year.
And the warmer, the Petite Sirah does well in the warmer climates.
Warmer climate, yeah.
Do they also grow it differently, or they're different? We just noticed driving over here that some of the wine bushes or vines, I guess, that we were passing were kind of bushy, and there was no trellis, there was no
Trimming, no.
So those are like head trained, usually, is what those are called.
And what does that mean?
It means that it's basically, so are you talking about like these guys over here?
Yeah.
So
it was
that's
right around
actually
the corner.
Dante Ducey Vineyard. So one of the most famous vineyards in Paso Robles is right there.
Oh, yeah?
And then Benito Ducey, one of his brothers. So there's 3 brothers that started, 3 Ducey brothers that have very famous Ducey vineyards. But Dante Ducey is the most famous, and it's right there, and it's all dry farmed, head trained Zinfandel.
Interesting. So it's just a different, what we saw was just a different way to grow them.
Mm-hmm. It's basically just like a bush. And so you're orienting your main trunk, and you're orienting, they're not cordons because they're not on a line, but basically the shoot positioning. And so they come out and they look like hands or something like later. Yeah, kind of like that.
So, and how do you do yours, or where do you grow your grapes? And
So I buy all my fruit. So I
Okay.
buy from other vineyards.
Gotcha.
And so I don't have my own vineyard. But generally speaking, most of my stuff, in fact, I do buy a little bit of head trained from Creston. But most of my stuff is VSP, so vertical standard positioning, single cordon trellising, so bilateral cordons.
And do you go out and visit your grapes and make sure they're whoever's growing them is doing it
Yeah.
kind of to your standards.
Exactly.
So Matt, so when you say you're buying grapes from people, do you have like contracts for certain lots or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. I work with contracts for the most part. Sometimes on years like this, I'll pick up what's called spot market fruit. So it's kind of a last minute deal. But yes, generally speaking, we have long-term contracts.
And then what is a year like this? What does that mean?
Well, we had a lot of rain, and so we've had a lot of drought and heat in the past, 10 years or so, and so our tonnage has come down. This year will be more normal. It's a little cold and windy during set, and so some of it's a little bit lower volume than people were expecting, tonnage than people were expecting, but overall it'll be a bigger year, and so there'll be a lot of fruit left over at the end.
I see.
So now, how did you get started? Tell me about that journey.
So, so I grew up in the Central Valley in Visalia, and then my parents are wine collectors, and so I grew up around wine, around good wine, and drinking wine, and I went to UC Davis pre-med, and so
Pre-med.
and so I took intro to winemaking my first year, and it was kind of a downward spiral from there, and I just didn't want to do anything else after that.
So it was basically one of those classes, probably like, we both took, I know I took like a film appreciation class.
I took African dance.
There you go.
You figure, I know wine, this will be an easy one. And then you got hooked, huh?
So, and that, your folks must have been kind of happy in a weird way.
Definitely a very weird way. Took a while for them to come around to it.
I'm
But
gonna be a
yes,
doctor, but
It's like,
Yeah.
Mom, Dad, your fault. You had all that wine around.
that's exactly right.
That's right, it was their fault.
How do you and your wife work as a team? And keep your marriage going.
Difficult, but we work at it. But we have more distinct jobs in the winery. So I'm in charge of production, wholesale and distribution, accounting, maintenance, facility maintenance, stuff like that. Teresa is in charge of marketing, advertising, direct-to-consumer sales, wine club, things like that. And so we have our own little niches. Yeah, and she comes and helps me in the back, and I'm trying to learn to let her just lead at the other stuff and follow her lead. But
It takes
teamwork.
It takes teamwork. How'd you come up with a name like Black, or just labeling your?
Well, we started with red. I wanted something nice and pink because I just wanted something basic. My philosophy from the beginning has been let the wine speak for itself, and so we have very clean packaging, very clean labels, very direct everything. There's no fancy blurbs. There's no pretty pictures. It's just solid wine in a clean package, basically, is what it comes down to. And so, red is a nationally distributed wine we sell. Mostly it's designed for, it's also what I would call a discovery wine because it helps people discover MCV. So it's a by-the-glass wine for restaurants, wine bars. So this is designed as, like I said, discovery wine. And so it's...
Yeah, hold on, you sit down.
It should be somewhere in the $13 range. By the glass is generally where I see it in the market. It's not always exact. But basically, I'm trying to over-deliver on this wine.
so I know your parents are wine collectors. What do they drink your wine?
Oh, yeah, absolutely they do.
They better.
So our barrel inserts, I use them, basically they're for essentially kind of the red, and somewhat to the Petite Sirah as well, just because of the price point. And so new barrels are very expensive. I only use French oak on MCV. I just do. And it's very costly. And so a new French oak barrel is about $1,200. And it holds 25 cases, and it's really only good for actually impactfully one use. And so like 3/4 of the value of that barrel goes into the first use. And so you're adding on $900 cost onto 25 cases. And so it jacks your price up very quickly. Yeah. And so you can use French oak inserts in a neutral barrel, and it's not going to be quite as good as, say, a brand new French oak barrel, but it's pretty good. And so you're still getting the ageability or the oxygen exchange and barrel aging process, but then you're getting the oak impact from the staves, and so you're getting some tannin exchange like you would from a barrel. And so it's a cost-effective way to get true natural oak into the wine. And so that's, what the goal is on that.
Would this be something you would learn in school? When it comes to winemaking?
I can't remember.
I mean, those are great.
Because UC Davis is a research school, and so I'm not sure we went over. I'm sure we talked about it at one point.
But I mean, that just
last
must
time
come
we
with
didn't.
experience, though. Or just
Well, and
Absolutely.
when we were setting up, James was fascinated by your
a book back there.
by your catalogs.
Yeah, I got the Fort is a supplier of fermentation supplies. We got Scott Labs and other fermentation supplies, an artist, another one, and then Lamoth Abbey. I had that meeting when you guys got here with a client, and we were going over different things, and so I brought out all 4 books. I typically buy the majority of my things from the Fort, but I am open to trying new products.
So now, can you? I got a question for you. I noticed this bottle has a screw top. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process behind? Because you wanted to have it by the glass, have the bartenders pour it out as fast as possible. Is that it?
Could be. I'm not sure about, it'd be nice if they poured out as fast as possible, but yes, it's certainly for ease of use, because it's also great at, picnics, camping, the beach. I mean, we're really, 30 minutes from the beach. So if you want to go have some wine at the beach or on a boat, I mean, it's easy to have a screw cap. And so because of that price point, I think it's $20, we wanted the closure to kind of reflect that. You don't want to have a $20 bottle and put a $1 cork in there that somebody has to have a corkscrew on. You want it to be accessible.
Yeah, ease of use.
And what do you think the difference is between the screw top and having a cork? As far as like the client, what they think of it, or what's your thought process?
I think it's changing over time, but people definitely have a perception that corks are for nicer wines, and so I think they're wrong. I mean, screw caps are actually one of the best closures there are. You'll never get any kind of taint. They're, made robotically or, to a high standard, and so you have almost perfect closure every time. And so I think that they are a superior closure in general.
Yeah. Well, it does make it easier for the wino, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. For me, anyway. This is just a bizarro question off the cuff because of the going back to the your catalogs. Is there like a trade show for winemakers?
Mm-hmm.
Is
lots of them?
Yeah, that would be a fun trade show.
Yep, the big one, the symposium. Yep.
So, we're going to take a real quick break, and then when we get back, we'll talk more about the wine and the winemaker and all things wine. We'll be right back.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Okay, we're back, and we have a side-by-side comparison we're doing here. And what are we side-by-side comparing?
So I have my 2 primary vineyards, Rosewind Vineyard, which is in San Miguel, and we have Gemini Vineyard, which is in El Pomar District. And so 2 different Petite Sirahs I make in 2 completely different ways. The Rosewind was the very first vineyard I ever purchased fruit from. I'd come down from Napa, and so I made it just like I was making Napa Cab. And so it has a completely different profile from a typical Petite Sirah. Much more elongated in the palate, much more background flavor than you typically see for Petite Sirah. And then the Gemini is rocky, steep hillside in Pomar, and it is one of the most phenolically rich wines I've ever worked with. And so I make it.
What's that word?
Phenolics?
Yes.
Phenolics are a major component of grapes, and so the anthocyanin components of phenolics are color and tannin, and those are the anthocyanins. And so when I say it's phenolically rich, it's incredibly rich in anthocyanins. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the darkest, most dense tannic wines I've ever worked with.
Wow.
And I make it very much more like a typical Petite Sirah. And so from the way we make it during fermentation, to the way we press it, to the way we age it in barrels, it's completely different. So,
The first one I taste a lot of French oak, almost none in the second one.
so they're a little bit different. One's a 2020, and then the Gemini is the rose one's 2020, and the Gemini is 2019. So there's a little bit more, age time on the Gemini. They both have a lot of French oak, about 70% new French oak.
And you said the rose when you made more in a cab style, and then the petite, and then the
Gemini
is like hard. This is what
like more typical Petite Sirah or Syrah, whatever you want to call it.
When do you sit down and write about the notes on the nose and the palate? Like, when do you go, okay, I'm ready to put it to label? What is that process?
So generally before release, we do it a couple of times over the year. Our next release is our wine club release party the first weekend of November. And so I've already opened up all the 2021s that we're releasing with my staff, and they were very, very closed. And so we actually took no tasting notes because they were too closed down to actually get any meaningful notes on. So
Okay, that's fair.
probably later this month, middle next month, which will be difficult because it's harvest, we'll carve out an hour to go through all 7 wines and put together some tasting notes.
And then do you, at that point, do you decant it and let it set open for a while before you?
No, generally we corv on it and we just go straight through, and if we need to, we swirl. Those we definitely needed to decant. And if it happens again where we find the time and it obviously is not tasting right, then we'll decant them.
That must be a neat process. Like, you're tasting mushroom? I'm not tasting mushroom.
Yeah.
Where are you getting that?
Generally, people professionally taste very similar things, usually speaking. So, like, if a professional taster says, hey, I taste this, most likely it's going to be there. Not always. People taste things differently, and some people are more sensitive or less sensitive to some things. I'm very, very sensitive to TCA, to cork taint, but I'm very insensitive to oak flavor. So I have a tendency to over oak my wines because I can't actually taste oak very well.
And then the nose just must be personal. That's like your memory. That's what you know what I mean? You're going, smells like my grandmother's attic, whatever it is. But that's like a memory, or that's something that I have old leather or, books or something.
And sometimes that happens where you will do a memory association with the aromas of the wine. But generally speaking, the aromas are also the same. You'll smell very similar things. I kind of get what you say when you say attic for this one.
Right.
But for me, I get a lot of clove and cardamom and like rosemary.
See, that's fancy. Are you happy with these? Have you felt like you mastered one yet? Or is the Petite Sirah?
I think everybody always has new things to learn.
Yeah.
But I definitely am very proud of both of these. They both got high scores. I mean, this guy got a 94 and a 93, I think, 94. So both are high scoring. They're fabulous wines.
Right.
Who was the person who scored them?
I send off to the enthusiast. I send off to James Suckling, Venice, and every once in a while I'll do other people too. Sometimes. Every once in a while, the Advocate, but they don't really come to Paso very often anymore. They just kind of do like 25 wineries here, and that's about it.
What's the process like to get your wine scored?
With the enthusiasts, it's pretty easy. You just send the wines in, and they taste them. I mean, there's so many scorings and fairs and all that kind of stuff. You can just send them anywhere all the time, and they'll yeah. I mean, you can give all your wine away to have it scored somewhere if you wanted to. So
Yeah.
So, and some are more important than others, and some are more relevant, and some are better than others in terms of the scoring quality. But it's a lot of it's personal too, and it's also regional. So Jeb Dunnick's another one that scores my wines. He likes the wines. He likes me. I like Jeb a lot. He's very, very important in the Central Coast, and California, and like Colorado, where he's from, he's very important. But like I have a distributor back east in like 5 states back east, and this guy was like Wine Enthusiast #1 distributor in 2013 or something, and he had no idea who the guy was. And I'm like, you don't know that, he was a scorer for the Advocate for a while, and he had Roan Report, and he's like, oh yeah, that guy. And so but that guy for the back east says that I have to send wines off to Beverage Testing Institute, which I had never even heard of. And so regionally, it kind of is different regionally based on who. Enthusiast, Advocate, Spectator, all national, international, but some of the other scores can be a little bit more regional. So
Now, what is at the end of the day, what's your goal here? What do you want? You want to bring Petite Sirahs out to be a little bit more of a standard, So educate the people on Petite Sirahs.
Yeah, I would definitely like to do that. We're a small family winery. As we discussed, my wife and I kind of run the thing together. My kids are here a lot. We don't have after-school care at the moment, and school ends at 2:45. So every day about 3 o'clock, my kids show up for a couple hours before 2, however long there's work to do, and then they go home with either my wife or myself, depending on who's got work that evening.
And they make some beautiful Lego art.
Exactly. We got all the Lego flowers. We got to keep them busy somehow without destroying things, hopefully.
Yes.
And so... No, I really want to get that big. I have no desire to get bigger than 4,000, 5,000 cases at the most. It's, at that point, I still know every barrel that's back there. It's still like very, very much a personal winemaking. Yes. When you start getting too big, you lose the feeling of your wine. It's like a little bit comes impersonal because you have too many barrels to keep track of. You have too much wine you're making. It's all just, it starts to almost become winemaking by the numbers sometimes. And it's a lot. And at that point, you're doing it for income, not for passion.
Yeah.
So
now, what made you fall in love with Petite Sirah?
So the bottle that made me fall in love with Petite Sirah was an EOS bottle from long, long ago, like 20 years ago, when the RCROs still owned it. And it was their Coupe Grande, which is like a $50 bottle of Petite Sirah 20 years ago. And I remember having that bottle, and it was like 2002 or 2003, and it was just amazing wine. And it was just, we knew Petite Sirah could cost that much in 2003. So, and so I remember that was the wine that got me into Petite Sirah.
So then sourcing, you would just go around to different acreages and look at the petite grape and just you dial it in. Are you happy with the ones you're purchasing now? And
yeah, I'm very happy.
And that's your go-to place?
Yeah, these are my go-to places. I might pick up one more reserve high-end Petite Sirah location. I'm still looking for it. So.
Very good.
Is there any other wine? What?
I was going to say, why don't we take a quick break?
And then we'll wrap things up.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the wine club and all that good stuff.
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Okay, we are back with another side-by-side.
Yep.
And now we're doing, are these also both Petite Sirahs?
They're Petite Sirah blends. And so the one in our glass on the left is the 1105, which is my flagship wine. And so it's a 6 grape blend. The 2020 is 61% Petite Sirah, 14% Tannat, 9% Petit Verdot, 8% Syrah, 7% Grenache, 1% Viognier.
Well, how do you come up with that? Do you just, when you're doing a blend?
So every grape I use is there for a reason, right? And so the Viognier is in there. It's a co-fermentation with the Syrah, so I co-ferment my Syrah at about a 3 to 5% rate. And what that does is it boosts the aromatics of the Syrah, gives a little bit of a savory note. Grenache is there for aromatics. Tannat is a front palate grape. Petite Sirah is the mid palate core of the wine. Syrah kind of rounds out the mid palate, gives a little bit more complexity. And then Petit Verdot is our back palate structural finishing grape. And so it's all in there. But
It's like a little puzzle.
Well, no, it's kind of like a little salt, a little pepper, a little paprika,
Now, what does 1105 mean?
it's a play on MCV. MCV in Roman numerals 1105.
Oh, there you go.
And so for me, 1105 is a lot like a Chateauneuf de Pop, but a little more on steroids based on the grape selection. But it's got that elegance, that nuance, that complexity of a good Chateauneuf.
What would you pair this with?
I like it with lamb, but it'll go with pretty much anything because of all the grape varieties. I mean, we've paired it with duck, deer, lamb, pork.
How about burro? Because I just had burro for the first time.
I'm not sure I ever had. I think I had it with llama one time.
It was in Sicily. I was like, am I really going to eat?
What is that like?
It was good. It was a little bit sweeter than...
No, you're supposed to say it was
No, but...
really nice.
Beautiful, beautiful wine. I know that Herman, when we were in the break, was talking about Petite Sirah, and
I was telling them that they're smaller grapes, so they're more concentrated.
Yep, exactly. Very small grapes. The Gemini ones, which, it's one of the reasons Ophanolog are usually about the size of my pinky nail when they come off. Rose ones usually the size of like my ring finger nail, roughly. Whereas, Syrah can be bigger berried, Grenache big berried, stuff like that. So
and are they
it's a tight cluster.
tight cluster?
Very tight cluster.
And you were saying that the reason you like Petite Sirahs is because of that, it seems to be a really concentrated flavor.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a very dense, concentrated variety.
How do you do your sugar testing on them when you say, okay, let's harvest them, let's grab them?
I generally do a cluster sample, so I'll pick
bring them
about
back
20
here.
clusters evenly throughout the vineyard, and I bring them here. I have lab equipment in the back, and so I run a whole panel. But I pick based on taste, not sugar. And so people confuse sugar with ripeness, and it's not the case. Sugar is an indicator of potential ripeness, but it's not the end-all of ripeness.
And when you say taste, are you actually eating the grape? Just chewing on it? Going,
I usually spit out the skin and the seeds, but yeah.
and you're like, it's ready to rock and roll. Or you're going to sit there for a little longer.
Yeah, but it's not one berry. I usually walk the rows, and we'll taste 3 or 4 per row, and randomly. You just walk along, whatever the first thing you touch is, that's what you eat.
And when you say it's picking time, you tell them, right? Because that's your baby right now. And
Exactly.
And you get on the phone, call the crew, and they're out there. They're doing it. They're
Well, there's scheduling constraints, but yes, generally speaking. But I also don't wait until the last second to make the call. I can usually tell I'll start giving heads up about a week out, because I can tell we're getting there and be like, hey, so I think we're going to pick on this date. And then I'll give you a final confirmation 2 days out, and then we pick. I'm not I don't show up at like 5 o'clock the night before and be like, yeah, we're picking tonight. It doesn't work that way usually. Well, it does for some people, but not for me.
and then you bring
Go down to Home Depot and grab yourself.
you bring him here. You bring him here on site, and then you start the process. I imagine.
The grapes, yep. Grapes come in, we start the process, and so yeah, it's.
So you're right. You're right at you're on the diving board looking over into the deep water right now.
Yeah, we're about to get started. We got Viognier coming in today for one of my clients.
Wow.
Do you bottle here individually, like do the bottling, or do you have like that truck kind of thing?
We have a truck.
You have a truck. That
Everything done here is professional. So we bring in a truck, we do all that stuff. There's no hand bottling other than
And you
like
don't
samples.
step on the grapes with your feet. You don't do that.
I don't. Usually. I usually wear boots, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. There's all kinds of bugs and things in there and sharp, pointy things, so I generally wear boots. But
You're brilliant, Petite. That's brilliant. I like the fact that
really-
you're working
you
so
actually-
raw. These are amazing
Yeah,
wines.
and I
And they're
like the
all
fact-
different. They're all different.
But the fact that you're taking a grape that's not necessarily in the forefront, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, because Paso, everybody's doing Cabernet.
everywhere, everybody goes Cabernet.
Yeah.
It's by far the most planted grape everywhere.
You
Really
really
good.
different, and I think it's awesome.
It shows.
Thank you.
It shows.
Yeah.
Now you had a wine club question.
Wine club. Talk
Yeah.
to me about
How
how
do
do
we
I
get
get
your
your
wine?
damn wines.
Well, the wine club's a great way. We do most of our business through direct to consumer sales, especially on the reserves. Red and Petite Sirah and certain things you can find lots of places. But reserve wines like black, there's a few choice restaurants and wine shops around. I hear Buffet is going to be bringing in black. They're on El Paseo down there, and so that's perfect. The hardest part of this business is selling the wine. It's not making the wine. It's the selling of the wine. That's
Right.
the hardest part. So
Yeah.
And what's your yield like? You said this year is going to be a really good year. So about how many? What would we?
we'll do about 30 tons, so about 1,500 cases.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Great product.
Really good product.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us in and having us taste your delicious wines and turning on some people to Petite Sirah.
Absolutely.
MCV. Petite Sirah.
What?
Oh, what website?
Yep, and they can find more information on the website, which is really easy. It's mcvwines.com. You can find out information about the wine club. It's just twice a year. The next one coming up is November, and we'll do all the new releases, and we have that dinner we were kind of talking about, and it'll be a lot of fun. And we always do a good pickup party as well. We like to take care of our members, and so
So twice a year.
twice a year.
Very good.
My philosophy is my club members are going to take care of us when times are hard, and I want to take care of them when times are good, and so we do as much as we can. We try and be as generous as we can with wine club members to, thank them for their support.
Well, before we wrap up, and we will wrap up, would you want your kid to get into this business, or do you after, because
Probably not. Maybe. I mean, if they want to, but it's a very difficult, especially nowadays. Generally, people that start wineries have a very significant amount of money. I started this winery with nothing, and so I've just survived on sales and loans, and that's it. My wife and I just put in the hard work and make it and push through and that kind of stuff. And
You have a great talent.
well, thank you very much.
Really has
really
knocked out.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I'd much rather they were like much rather they were like my father and were doctors or lawyers or pharmacists or something that's a little bit more stable and easy. But
you were passionate and you followed your passion. You know what I mean? Well, it's been a great episode. Thank you so much. And hey, we'll see you next time inside the bunghole, people.
Adios.
Thank you.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!